What is up, everybody? You are here at the Real Alaska Podcast with Justin and
Tyler. What's going on, everybody?
And we are here with, again,
Team 5.
Team 5, our dog.
Zach, Tommy, welcome from your long journey.
How's it going?
How was it? I don't even know how to start this. How was it?
Well, I mean, we're starting with drinks this time.
Cheers.
So.
Cheers, my friend.
Yeah, cheers,
good
guys.
job. Yeah, good job.
All right. Drinking some Alaskans for those who are not watching this. Yeah, I know you guys were giving Tyler a few updates during the race there. He just keeps looking. He's like, apparently the race is pretty shitty this year.
Yeah, it definitely was an interesting race. Well, out of an interesting race, you guys got 5th. Team 5 got 5th. How'd that feel? After I guess we can get kind of into it, but how's 5th feel for this year?
I was happy as could be my first race just to finish, as rough as the course was. But
right,
it was a tough course from what everyone said, especially guys who've been doing it for 10 plus years. We're saying it was probably the roughest they've ever seen. So,
yeah, Zach.
I mean, you can't be dissatisfied. A finish is good, but I mean, 5th, at least you're still there.
Mm-hmm.
It just sucks when you see the opportunities ahead of you.
Yeah,
but a lot of it's out of your own control. So
yeah. Take us through day one. I mean, we got a lot of warm weather there. The lake looked like a hot mess when you guys left. How was the first day?
Well, they revamped the start as we were getting ready to take off from the Menard Center, and we ended up trailering to Three Bears parking lot.
Thank you, Three Bears.
Yeah, thank you, Three Bears.
Yeah.
And actually started from the lake, not from the Menard Center. So that was the first change.
Yeah.
Then we started back 19th.
yeah, we were pretty far back there.
So a lot of riders had already gone over the course by the time we actually started. So the trail was getting rougher with every single person going over it.
Right.
And it was warm. Lake had a bunch of overflow on it.
Yeah.
Well, it was kind of weird. So you go big lake, overflow, wet, kind of disaster, but it was good visibility, good weather.
Yeah.
As soon as you hit the river, straight ice fog.
Oh, really?
Really?
And we're like, you got to be kidding me. Like, already, it's like right in the elements. And it's like, that pretty much followed us all the way to Squintna. And then it started opening up and getting pretty nice. And it was actually, weather-wise, a pretty good first day. Yeah, it was warm, but you had good visibility. There wasn't much water after Squintna.
Yeah. Huh. What I heard, I heard a bunch of rumors. Was the river like a snowcross track?
Yeah, it was just rough chatter. So they got so much snow that everybody ran one main line.
Yeah.
So then it just developed into like a tunnel effect. And once you're in that tunnel, it was just 2-foot chop that you couldn't really get out of.
Yeah. That's exciting.
And there's such deep snow you couldn't really go around it. There's Team 6 ran out of fuel just going to Squintna because they're trying to put in their own lines. I started getting a little nervous, so I funneled back into that tunnel, but it's one of those things.
Can't win it in the first day.
You can definitely lose the race in the first day, but you can't win it.
Yeah, which we did unfortunately see. I think it was Team 8 scratched on the first day, so it's a bummer, but yeah, it happens for sure. So after Squintna, how was getting up towards Pontilla?
It was a normal bumps. It wasn't terrible. It was comparable to training all year.
Yeah.
But
so you guys felt pretty comfortable with that first day getting to?
Yeah, we had some confusion with some of the cat tracks and lost a little bit of time, but it's 5 minutes here and you're still going down the trail, or 5 minutes backtracking. It's kind of take your pick.
Yeah. So after that, once you guys kind of got to McGrath, how'd the second day with going to over Poor Man, that area that Tommy was looking forward to? How was it? How was it, Tommy?
That's probably the most brutal section of the race because it's so desolate. You obviously know you're basically about 130 miles or so where there's really nothing between Takotna and Ruby. Poor Man and Ophir are the two checkpoints there. They're about 100 miles apart, 90 something if I remember right, and they're both abandoned mine camps,
right,
or little shacks like that. So there's nothing there. So you're in the middle of nowhere riding over a pretty much single track trail that's not smooth.
At all.
at all. And then once you get through it, you start thinking, I got to go back through that on the way home.
Yeah. Was it worse this year than at previous years through there?
I thought it was pretty good going northbound.
But southbound was probably
The wind drifts got Tommy a little bit.
Ooh, I like that. Why are you guys smiling? What happened?
Just the normal wind drifts on the road going into Ruby. They weren't quite as bad as what they've been, but they're just difficult to navigate through.
Right.
Especially for the poor man when you're tired.
Yeah.
And I made a mistake. I went off the trail and got stuck in the trees pretty bad.
You didn't have your long track?
No. Yeah. So I made a mistake there and cost us some time. Just got tired and made a mistake, and then you're even more tired, and it starts compounding. And so definitely my mistake there, but, we got back going again. It took us a little while, but, that's the stuff that shouldn't happen, but fortunately, human.
Yeah,
I learn though.
Yeah, exactly. Rookie year, now you kind of have a good idea of what it is, and it's kind of funny because we all kind of listen to other racers talk, and the team that we were talking about earlier that stayed with my parents were like, those drifts were like 12 feet high, and he's like, I came over one and I just kind of panicked and my sled straight up nosedived, and he said he was like at a 90. They were just so big.
So there's one of them that was about a 12-foot drop. Previous years, I've seen it where it's like a 2-foot story drop to flat, and like you don't know, like as like the leaders of the front pack, like there's not much warning, and that's not really a heavily used trail.
Right.
It's getting used more now because they're hauling the fuel in from Ruby and Galena into Poor Man. So it's like, but now there's a nice little trail down to the right. So, but if you came in there fast, you're going off that drop, and it's just perfectly to flat. So it's just jump from your ceiling down to the ground flat at 50, 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, so that's what it sounded like Team 38 did. They just came up on it, saw it, hit the brakes, and went nose first down into it. So.
And it's one of those things, what do? It's like, do you try to check up,
right.
But you don't know if it's going to roll off the backside. You don't know if it's a sharp edge, like a cornice, know. So it's, it's one of those things that's take the extra minute, but that's also learning. That's all part of the whole learning process.
Yeah. So that sounds exciting. Did that get you fired up a little bit? Were you?
I was pretty mad.
Yeah.
I was pretty mad at myself. It's hard to stay focused and stay for that long when you're riding for 10 plus hours a day, if not more on some days, trying to maintain consistent focus, keep your speed up, all that stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of mental strength that it takes to stay in that. And I can see how after a few years of doing it, you're more adapted to it.
Right.
Normally you go ride, you stop and you take a break for a few minutes, but trying to maintain that for hours and miles and miles and miles, doing that same thing over and over is. Yeah.
I know Zach said that was probably like the most challenging part of the Iron Dog is the mental game. So being your rookie year, like having done a full race now.
It was quite the learning curve staying up on that, especially after that day leaving Nome. We did, 700 miles in a day?
Yeah.
That's a long ways. You know, if you're thinking about it, that's Fairbanks and back, basically.
Yeah.
In one day across,
Yeah, snow machine, yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, so how's the Yukon this year?
It was pretty good and fast. We didn't have the best visibility northbound. Blowing snow, flat light, windy going northbound. We waited till dark to trek over Unacleat, so it got a little bit better. And there's quite a bit of traffic on the river. They had a big
stick
dance. So basically a big potluck going on in Nolato. So there's quite a bit of traffic going on. But then coming back, he broke a torsion spring, but it was pretty fast coming back.
Yeah. Was it a just freak break, or did you hit something, or just out of nowhere?
We broke a lot of torsion springs.
That's what I keep hearing. So interesting.
It's weird. We don't know if it's product driven, where it's just engineering just a little too hot, or because they all paint them.
Right.
They don't powder coat obviously weakens them, but we don't know if it was just the heat or if it was just a bad batch or just more consistent bigger bumps. And we find that, year after year, the plane support's not as reliant as it kind of used to be with weather. So people are packing more weight on these sleds now, and so you're adding more weight, adding more stress to these different points that you don't always train with all of it.
Right.
You try to get as close as you can, but you could add 10 pounds on before the race without even realizing it, and then something's going to fatigue at that point.
Yeah, and that's what I noticed a lot this year is like everybody had parts strapped to their sled this year, and I was like, well, that's kind of unique. I'm not used to seeing that, but do you think it was a factor just because like we talked about, I mean, a rough course, your suspension's working so much harder because you're hitting those constant bumps throughout this whole race. Do you think that had a play in weakening suspension parts just because of that constant?
It didn't help. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
it's everything that you didn't carry, you broke. So it's like, we could go back and carry all the stuff that we broke this year, and we're going to break something else that we never broke during training. And you're just like, what do you do?
Right.
It's just one of those games where it's, at the end of the day, look at Team 7. 0 wrench time, 100% clean, no issues. And they weren't putting down lightning fast split times over everyone else.
No.
They were just that consistent top 5 split time. Most times they were up there, but you just got to be there and then let the race kind of come to you, and that's kind of what happened to them,
Yeah.
Team 10 started having issues. Team 6 had their issues. 9 had their issues.
Right. Everybody this year kind of, besides obviously the winners, had some kind of mechanical issues throughout the race that was kind of biting them through the race. So northbound, it sounds like besides the torsion string, you guys were pretty clean. Or
northbound, we didn't break anything but a windshield. I took a little tumble in the burn on the first day.
Oh, let's hear about this.
I just
It's your video.
No, I came in a little hot, and I just got crossed up and took a tumble, and I broke a windshield, and so I went and bent to ski. So we cruised on into McGrath and changed the ski and a windshield that next morning before we took off out of McGrath going northbound. And then the rest of the run going north was pretty clean other than getting stuck there. And we got to Nome, and sleds were in good shape. I broke a footrest.
How'd you break a footrest?
Clipped a tree.
You and trees.
Yeah, I know.
It was there's been some that they're a little bit weaker this year.
Yeah.
I broke one southbound without hitting anything. So
Okay.
And
we'll get to your tree stuff on the way south.
We had braces and everything on them. From the factory, they recognized that it could potentially be a weaker point than what it was previous years. And I actually broke one with the brace. Mm-hmm. Didn't hit anything. I mean, he clipped a tree and didn't even have broken plastic that molds around it.
But it broke the
footrest.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah. So northbound, it sounded like, besides for the Iron Dog, that's pretty clean. You guys, what was your wrench time in Nome?
Like 14 minutes.
It's not bad, yeah.
I mean, we changed quite a bit of stuff. We did some different stuff to try and chase some different things. We were getting some detonation issues with our fuel mapping. So we tried changing a couple things to try and help that, and it did help. But it's like 15 minutes in the garage there where it's warm, everything's thought out, or you could have potentially up to an hour or more trying to repair something that you don't do
right
out in the field.
Yeah.
So it's just take advantage of it.
Right. Nice. So, it sounded like it was really warm. So even if you're out in the field, at least it wasn't. Did you guys see anything below 0 this year?
We didn't see anything below.
I think 10 to 15 was the coldest I saw.
So it was a heat wave. It was like tropics out there.
Jeez, man.
You're sweating. I've probably sweat more than I ever have in an Iron Dog.
That's so unusual.
And it's like you can't even really dress for it because it's like, I just know, like you hit the Yukon, you close your vents in your coat, it's going to be chilly because you're just going as fast as you can down the Yukon. Vents are wide open this year. Coats are half unzipped.
Flip-flops.
Most teams show up with their coats completely unzipped at checkpoints.
Yeah.
It's like we're all running around with Batman capes out there.
Yeah, that's exciting.
There can only be one hero.
Yeah. Yeah. So southbound, it sound like you guys started to have maybe a little issues.
We were pretty clean going all the way to Cots from Nome. So the mileage this year was kind of a little complicated. So previous years, it's been the same, but the course was faster.
Right.
So there weren't as many bumps. So, you could save 30 minutes in this split or here or there. And so, like this year, we did that whole Cots loop all in one day.
Oh, Wow.
So we went Nome all the way to Kotzebue, and then Kotzebue all the way back down to Unalakleet. And so, 700 miles, and we did it. We left at 11 a.m. out of Nome, and we took 2 hours in Kotzebue for dinner and just a nice little break. And then once we hit Koyuk, when you get back to the coast, that's when I broke a rear shock. And then we took another 2 hours to get parts. And then we only had a 2-hour ride to Unalakleet at that point, but still it's 4 hours of rest, and we didn't get to Unalakleet till 5 a.m. So it's a long day,
man.
And you're covering so much country. It's just like, you're seeing so much different stuff. Kotzebue is so flat to me. Once you get to Kotzebue, you can see the mountains.
Yeah.
But going there, everything's just purely flat and rolling hills. Whereas Nome, you can kind of see some mountains and some texture next to you. You have your ocean to your left, mountains to your right. So, but just that, it's just rolling white hills.
Yeah.
And you see nothing.
Huh. Interesting. What do you think about all the different country? You've talked about being out in the villages, but on a snow machine, all the country you went across, what do you think?
Pretty wild. The ocean was kind of the biggest eye opener for me, especially coming south when the water was open.
Oh, I didn't know about this. Let's talk about that. Did you have to water skip, or do you stay in?
We water skipped northbound, some short stuff out in Golovin Bay, and then a few other spots kind of along the coast there where there was just short sections of overflow.
We were on some, they say it's overflow, but it was fresh ice right out of Elam.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to go out there, but everybody else was going out there, so it's one of those deals where
you just rolled the dice. You're like, hey, Tommy, we're going to go right here.
Yeah. Well, we went to go the overland route. Nobody went that way. And, at that point, we're close to top 5, so we're like, okay, all the top teams are going out, so that's where we're going. And I had GPS tracks and stuff like that, but it was pretty slushy. And we knew the ice was out earlier that week. So you knew it was all fresh ice.
How do you feel about that?
That didn't bother me, actually. It was pretty smooth. You're going so fast, the water skipped enough on a sled, but it was the not knowing factors. The way back is where I was like, we looked at each other and decided to play the safe route on the way back across Golovin there. We ended up going inland and kind of riding some rougher ice and going up over on the hills there rather than going across the bay. Some of the front teams, I think, went straight across the open water. It was black water. It was wide open ocean. It was not.
The bad thing about it was we got to it. We knew it was kind of overflow, but it changed with the tides. But when it changed with the tides, it brought in some ice. And so I could see the ice and I could see the black water. And if it was just straight black water with a little bit like overflow spots, like that's not bad because it's smooth.
Right.
But the 2 or 3 teams that did go across, they said they had a lot of moments where it was pretty close. Because they're hitting icebergs or jumping off a ledge, and they're like, if anything goes wrong at that point, water skipping's fine, but when you're dropping into the water and splashing, the belt could get wet. Just as simple as that, and it's those little, it's like, so what, you saved a couple minutes?
Yeah, but the risk is so much higher. Like
you'd be done.
Yeah, belt get wet. And
a show class team got stuck in the overflow, and they were there for like 12 hours.
I saw a canoe out there.
Yeah, I was like, didn't somebody sink?
Yeah, we saw some pictures, and there was a canoe out there. They were like having a good old time trying to get them. Yeah,
it was like the Target parking lot.
Yeah. So
that's how Big Lake was to start.
Oh yeah, that was interesting.
Just the ice road alone, I think, had like a foot of water.
Yeah, we were taking bets on Facebook Live to see which way you guys were going to go. Everybody you guys were going trail.
Yeah,
we're going easy. It was really comical, and bless all those out-of-staters for trying this race. But you could totally tell as soon as they came out of that chute and they saw just the screwed up overflow, standing water. The one team came out of it, and I'm not going to name them, but they came up to the trail, and there's a bunch of overflow, like the way you guys went, right, that little trail. They full-on stopped, turned, and went all the way around. And I was like, oh, great, this is going to be a long race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those, it's like, if there wasn't tracks going right through it, some of it was like, it's like, man, is it really worth the risk, to be stuck here right now and just lose 10, 15 minutes? At the start of the race?
Oh, dude, everybody's just like, eyeballing you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got the camera. We're just like watching. We're like, come on, something happened.
We'll do that out of sight.
Yeah, exactly. So
like the tree.
Yeah. Can
we come back to the tree?
Yeah, we're almost there.
We're going to get back to it.
Yeah, we'll get back to it. So, how was Uniclete? Did you have any cat soup or anything this year?
No, it's actually, I mean, these people, that's where it's underrated for a lot of people, and I think Tom got to see a lot of it too. The amount of support that Iron Dog racers get in the villages from the locals. I mean, we had a guy, I knew we were going to be late. I texted him when in Kotzebue where we were staying in Uniclete, and I said, hey, we're hoping to be there about 1, maybe 2 at the latest, no issues. We had issues in Koyuk, so we were there for 2 extra hours. Then we were working on the sled, didn't get there till 5. He woke up regardless at 1:30, was tracking us, seeing when we were going to be there. As soon as we rolled up, went to his house. He had lasagna, salad, like a full meal ready to go sit on the table,
At
just
5
ready
in
to
the
go
morning
at
for
5
us.
in the morning.
Dude,
That's
know,
awesome. I bet that felt good.
And they don't, it's not like, yeah, we do give them money and that kind of stuff, and they're just more appreciative. It's like it's a highlight for them. It's something new. It's like, it'd be like us going to Vegas or something. That's kind of how we feel when we come in there.
Well, we're going there next month, so you guys want to give us some bucks or
Yeah.
put on black or whatever.
I'm really bad at gambling, so give it to Justin.
I'm not good either. So actually give it to Mike.
Yeah, Mike, you're the betting guy. So where I was going with that. So Uniclete, that 700, how did you feel? I mean, I know you've raced quite a bit of cross country, but
That 700-mile day, especially after the issues in Koyuk where we're sitting there at 2 in the morning, tired, and trying to get back into it to fix the sled in the dark, outside, and then get going again to make it there. And then I broke torsion spring going to Uniclete as well. So about Shack Tuluk, I broke torsion spring. So I rode all the way in there with just one spring. And for those, it's basically like your leaf spring of your truck would be the easiest comparison, I would say. So I rode in like that. Zach had already gone through a rough section of riding with no rear shock earlier in the day where we were kind of going slow because of...
Well, we leave Koyuk, and they're like, take overland, ice is out, open water.
Zach's
And
like,
we're
oh,
like-
shock.
I'm like, dude, the team just went out there right there. And they're like, Iron Dog just called it. And I said, well, we're taking ice, so I don't know what you guys are going to do.
Yeah.
But that was the least of our worries. That was nothing, compared to what we've already gone through. But
Yeah.
it's just in a matter of, so Team 7, the first team through, they went through there at like 6 or 7 p.m.
Right.
And just a matter of 5-6 hours later, that's how quick it can change out there, just with the tides, the winds, just what it can do. The ice could just completely pull out.
Sounds challenging.
Yeah.
Along with
It's just nerve-wracking because you don't have the tracks for like that year. So it's like the ice does change every year. And so it's like I have tracks from the previous 5 years, but it's different every year. You could be another 100 yards out, or you could be a couple miles out. You could be going overland. You could, you go out there, find a fast line, and all of a sudden you run out of ice and it's just water. And I mean, in a racer aspect, it's like it's a race. We're not going to lose time. So we're going to water skip back to land. We're not going to backtrack.
yeah, sounds. My brain's just trying to. So you turn into a boat. That's what you're telling
You
me.
try to.
Yeah. You hope you have a good boat.
Don't run out of gas, please.
You hope it stays afloat.
Yeah. So were your shocks, I mean, you did touch that, you broke a shock. Were your shocks like blowing out, or what was happening? Were you breaking shafts, or?
No, so the seals, just with wear, and I mean, I don't know. I feel like the last couple of years, just product, the quality has gone down. Everybody's more focused on the dollar,
Right.
not so much the quality. And so,
Just blame it on COVID.
yeah,
Shipping.
so
Yeah.
what happened was the nitrogen obviously leaked past the seals. So then it puts it within the oil. Mm-hmm. So then there's internal parts in there, and then that changes everything. And so there's an internal floating piston and shock, and that actually bottomed out, and that actually blew out the seal. So it actually happened twice. Happened to mine at 1,500 miles, and it happened to his 10 miles from the finish.
Oh, exciting. Down the Big Lake Trail with the blown shock.
On the big swamp is where mine gave out.
How is that ride?
He's telling me to go faster, and I'm like, I just want to get to the finish line, not have to tow.
But now, me telling him to go faster, We had 30 seconds to give is what we had
that
for
was
fifth place.
unreal. Okay, so we're kind of jumping ahead here, but let's touch on that. So what happened on the river? Like, I heard rumors you guys gave him a belt, or so this is Justin. This is what is crazy about this race, right? Zach, explain what happened and how that kind of formulated into you guys getting fifth.
So it's one of those things. So we're sitting in Puntilla. We're sixth place, and we had I think 50 minutes.
Yeah, almost
50 minutes before we got fifth place.
Right.
And so we're like, okay, not a big deal. They left 10 minutes ahead of us because they want everybody to be kind of a tighter group going in. So we knew even if we passed them, we still had 40 minutes that we had to put between us. So they got through Squintna clean. Out of Broken Torsion Spring, there, Broken Shell Lake, so 12 miles before Squintna. And so it was already kind of going slower, and it's just frustrating. We're just trying to get to the finish. I don't even care anymore,
Right.
We're just going to ride it broken. We're not even going to try to fix it. And then about halfway down the river, there's a guy walking on the river, and I'm like, what is going on? I see an orange bib, and I was like, oh, that's a racer. And then he's kind of close to his sled. I pull up to him. I'm like, hey, man, what's going on? He's like, you guys see my partner back there? We're like, no, we haven't seen anyone. And he's like, you got a belt? I was like, yeah, here's a belt. You need anything else? He's like, no. I offered to give him a ride back to his sled, which was like 100 yards down the trail. So we went on about our day, kept on riding. And it was 15 miles later, we see his partner sitting there waiting for him. And he's like, where's my partner? Where's he at? And we're like, he's 15 miles that way. We gave him a belt, but you might want to start backtracking just to make sure. And I think that's what he had to do. And he ended up breaking a secondary clutch, so he couldn't drive. So they started towing from 15 miles back after they already had a backtrack.
15 miles. Yeah.
15 miles. So, and then the frustration really starts setting in. And that's where the mentality of just staying in the moment and just simplify everything. Mm-hmm. Because you can get everybody starts getting heated. When it's not going your way, it could be anything. It's like you fold a shirt, out of the laundry, and it's not folding the right way after about the third or fourth attempt. You usually just toss it in the corner.
Right.
That's kind of how we start feeling on the trail a lot of times.
And you're so close.
Yep.
Because you know where you're at.
Yep. And then
You're back home, yeah. You get that. You smell the barn. You know you're getting there.
And then the icing on the cake was the tow sled ran out of fuel because he had to backtrack 15 miles. So then they had to pull the parts off that lead sled to put on the other sled because they didn't have any way to siphon the fuel out of the other sled. And then they had to start towing with the sled that originally broke.
Damn.
And then we pull up to the finish line, we're like, oh, they're like, oh, fifth place. And we're like, no, we had some time. We'll wait and see. We're pretty confident we'll be sixth, which still we finished. Mm-hmm. That was the goal. I want to get Tom across the finish line, and top 10, it's respectable. Top 5, it's like that's kind of where we know we should be.
Right.
So obviously it would have been nice to get that fifth. And then we get to the actual finish after we trailer from Big Lake, and they're like, yep, confirmed, 30 seconds, you guys got fifth place. And we're like,
so we didn't know.
Right.
We're sitting there, saying hi to our family and friends and stuff, and then they're going, no, you got fifth place. I'm like, no, we didn't. We got sixth. It was a good run, but and then all of a sudden they came across and said that, So it was like,
34 seconds.
Wow.
So they helped the other team that was in front of them, but still beat them by 34 seconds. Isn't that crazy?
It's karma.
It's just crazy to me. I mean, when you put it in perspective, that's where a lot of people don't understand. It's like, so I think our course time was in the 65-hour range.
Jesus.
Yeah.
63-hour range.
I think it was
something.
63.
So 2,600 miles, 63 hours, and however many minutes and seconds. And fifth and sixth is separated by 34 seconds.
That's insane, man.
That's where it really puts it in perspective. It's just like every second matters. Every checkpoint, do you need that sip of water or do you just continue on? But would that sip of water help you later on down the trail where you could save more time? That's where just all those little things just start to add up, and it takes years to really develop and learn it all. It's like I still learn, and I just completed my fifth.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's times where it's like you want to be frustrated, but it's like at the same time it's like I was in that position.
Yeah.
And that's where those guys, one of them was a rookie, and I'm sure he got flustered, and there's just one of those moments, just step back, take 30 seconds, take a deep breath, and they might have finished 2 minutes ahead of us.
Did Brian tell you from the air what he saw?
Mm-mm.
So I saw Brian at the finish. This is really funny because it kind of puts it in perspective how, like, from what you guys were seeing. So Brian is flying with watching you guys. And so what happened was, I don't know if it was Brad or Kelly or whoever went, the team that they helped. They were stopped on, like, where there was, like, 2 channels somewhere. So when the guy went back to, like, give him his parts or, like, find him, he went by him on the opposite channel. So
that's right where we gave him the belt.
Yeah, so that's how they got confused, is because he went on the opposite side of the channel and went by him and just kept going, trying to figure out where he was. And then so Brian in the plane, so Brian's their pilot,
Right.
He said he was, like, buzzing him, like, as low as he could, like, flapping his wings, like, go over this way. And that's where they got so messed up, is there was the 2 channels, and he just picked the wrong channel to get back to his partner and lost his partner.
Dude, what a bummer.
And see, that's where radio communication is pretty huge. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, so we're allowed to communicate as racers now, and in the rules, you're allowed to communicate with your pilot now. It's very rare that you can really get much through to them because just the elevation change, it's loud in their plane. But like, at least we can get like little subtle points to each other. You know, just as simple as a mic check.
Right.
You know, and it's like, then you still get their attention. You know, I like to ride where we can still have visibility, whether you still see their light at night or just physically still see them. Just because you know once they're out of sight and there's no mic check, either the sled shut off, they came off the sled, you know, something happened where you can just stop and you're backtracking a mile versus 15 miles.
Right. Yeah, 15 miles is a pretty decent distance.
Yeah.
Kind of like lose your partner.
Yeah, it's just, and that's, like, Zach made a great point. 5th and 6th was 34 seconds. After 63, 64 hours of a course, the last 40, 50 miles, I don't know where on the river it was, but
Yeah, it was just past Yetna Station, so
yeah, 30
What was
miles.
the time difference between like the first 5 teams? Like,
Couple
I want to say
hours.
there's about 2 hours between each place.
it's not terrible.
No,
I mean, especially when you're doing.
I mean,
6 or 7
there's been closer years, but sometimes it's just the way the cookie crumbles, and then it's like to push to make up an hour, you can lose the whole race. So a lot of people just, you know, you kind of, I wouldn't say settle, but you just kind of keep your position. You know, if you have 2 hours behind you, and you have 2 hours ahead of you, you're not going to push. You're not going to make up 2 hours. To make up that 2 hours, they're going to have to make a mistake, and that's where you put the pressure on them to make the mistake rather than you.
Right. Push it extra.
Yeah. Justin was probably laughing at me. I'd be like, "Oh, it's okay. That's okay. The team behind him's 40 minutes behind him. It's going to be okay." And then I'd be like, "Okay, well, they got to make up this much time," and just trying to calculate it all.
And that's where you start going split times, and it's like I don't even look at course time a lot of times. I look at split times, and you can see where that team is struggling or it can be better. You know, so it's I'm better in the trees and woods and bumps. And so
apparently Tom's has issues with the trees.
Yeah.
So
Trees kick my butt.
Tree,
The tree.
Just singular.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Stump.
okay, so yeah, let's get to that now. I know Justin's over here geeking, waiting, because I told him, I was like, well, sounds like Tommy had a little issue in the burn area.
And I will highlight, I did get yelled at. We both carry in reaches. I thought we were only there for an hour. Supposedly we were there for almost 2.
You were there for a long time.
And a lot of people were pretty upset that we didn't even send a message saying, changing an A-arm, we're fine.
I was texting your mother.
There's people in Roan that were like, we have a sled. Is it a safety deal? Do we need to go get them? And, you know, we're 42 degrees, holding flashlights in our mouth, helmets off, you know, just...
beers and the boys in the bushes.
It would have been pretty nice to have a couple beers at that point, but, you know, but that's where it's like...
Yeah. Can you airdrop those?
Yeah, airdrop. Yeah,
That's what we need.
yeah,
Little
Turner
parachutes.
shoots. Yeah. So what happened? You just got.
I just clipped a stump right off the side of the trail and broke my tie rod and bit my A-arm. And we had spare A-arm. We had a tie rod. We had tie rod ends. But we had 2 of the same ends. So on the tie rod, one's right hand, one's left hand thread.
Right.
And it broke off at the steering post, basically inside the sled. And we didn't have the right end for it. So after tearing everything apart and trying to figure out what to do, there was about 3, maybe 4 threads left on the tie rod where it broke off. So we took the tie rod and threaded it on there and just prayed that it would hold and basically backed the other end out so there was only a couple threads on it.
Yeah.
And so my ski was towed out a little bit, but
After we were already battling,
broken suspension bolts.
well, we lost a 15 mil socket, which was pretty desperate that we needed.
I thought it was a 10 mil you were supposed to lose.
Normally.
No.
We had 2 of those. Only one 15 mil.
And so we had a little saw. We had to trim some plastic just to get a wrench on there. And it was just, it was just it's like, okay, well, I mean, we can't go forward, so we're going to fix it. And it was just taking our time, piece by piece, making MacGyver and everything that we could.
How's that feel? Do you feel like a BA when you're out in the bushes with your buddy, just cutting stuff up and making things happen? What do you think, Tom? I know Zach probably was frustrated.
Or just
we were
pissed.
both frustrated.
About 40 miles before that, I lost a rear skid bolt. Whether it snapped or broke, we don't know. Came loose, we don't know, because the plastic bushings start wearing out, and that gives it space so then it can rattle and come loose. And so I'm like, dude, it's like we're 10 miles from Nikolai, and I'm like, if we go back, like, we're losing so much time at this point. We can't take much more layover time because we're going to ride all night in order to push down the trail. So I took what we had in our tools and parts and everything we carried with us, and it got us all the way to Puntilla. But, so I'm already taking it easy. And then he clipped a tree, and then we're just like, are you kidding me? We're the last team on the trail. We didn't know that. Everybody else laid over behind us.
Yeah.
So we're the last team moving forward. So everybody else left in the morning. And we're just like, man, it's dark.
It's dark.
We know we got all the water. So you go to the South Fork, comes up after that. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I was worried about coming back was because with the warm temps, South Fork isn't usually the best, but it gets pretty icy. Mm-hmm. And so you'll get a lot of ice dropouts with the water. And so I was like, man, I don't want to water skip in the dark. Like, that's the only thing I didn't want to do. As long as I can see when I'm water skipping, I'm fine because you can see the other side. There was one section that got pretty rough, but that's the only thing that's frustrating.
So we're going to go back to this mental, like the whole race. Like, was it kind of towards the end where you started, like, getting more frustrated, or do you feel you were pretty level-headed the whole time until things started? I mean...
Yeah. It was... For the most part, I mean, we each had our moments where we'd get frustrated.
Did you guys get mad at each other ever?
Not really.
I mean, you're both super calm, so I don't see you yelling at each other.
A couple times I tried to, like, really focus on not getting frustrated, but just like, dude, just settle. Just bring it down, like, go a little bit slower, and we'll be a couple minutes slower split time, or we're going to spend 10 minutes digging a sled out of a tree.
Yeah. Tommy, get out of the trees.
I'm used to playing in them in the mountains.
I was just about to say, I did see a video of you jumping in the mountains lately, so I bet that felt good to get back into the mountains.
A little more relaxing style of riding.
I'm sure there was beer there. Yeah.
There might have been one.
But, so all in all, it sounds like you guys, we didn't really touch on the shocks. How many shocks? 4?
Zach did 2.
I did 4.
2 4. 2 center, 2 rear. And
only on your sled, though?
I only broke the one, but I broke more torsion springs.
Sweet.
Broke 4 torsion springs.
Yeah, he did, and I broke 1 torsion.
He did 4 shocks, 1 torsion.
Apparently, Zach's a little rougher in the bumps. I'm just going to give that. You might be a little smoother, it sounds like. You just got to stay away from the trees.
I'm the lead sled. I'm the bump dummy, so I'm the one hitting it all first.
Yeah, you're the lead sled. So, how did you guys ever swap, or did you just let him lead the whole time?
For the most part, there were a couple little sections I led, but for the most part, he led.
Yeah.
It's just hard. You can tell, like, coming in a couple of villages where he was leading coming in, I could tell he was just kind of like
overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Well, you just don't know. There's stakes that go this way or that way. We come into the local communities. They use those stakes not only for us, but for them too. Mm-hmm. And so if you just don't know the pattern of how they do them, then you can easily get confused. And it's like, then next thing you know, you could be, there's really no roads.
Right.
You're going down all these snow machine trails, zigzagging through houses. You're like, everybody, you're going by so fast. Half of them are asleep, depending on the time of the day. And it's like, so I kind of took over in all the villages. But there's a few times where I'm just like, you can have it, dude. You want it?
Yeah.
You go find those. You go find those bumps, and I'll be a little bit smoother back here.
Yeah. Nice. What anything stand out for you, Tommy, throughout the race that
The support was the biggest thing from the local volunteers out there for hours and hours and days. Some of these villages like Koyuk, we go through 3 times. So they had, 20 some teams by the time we got to Koyuk, maybe somewhere around there that went through 3 times. And so they had to fuel them, oil, all that stuff. So they're out there for probably 3 days straight.
Mm-hmm.
And, like Koyuk, we came into midnight to 1 in the morning.
Yeah,
There were
that guy
still
was-
teams coming behind us.
And there's teams, and he was sleeping at the pump in between the teams, like sleeping against the pump. That's his break.
Yeah.
And we came through
That's
that
cool,
morning.
man.
Yeah. That's
So-
super cool.
They'd been there for 20 some hours, and then the families and people that we stayed with, the Ericksons and Uniclete, they were awesome people. They were, retired school
You're
teachers.
staying with Jeff, and then
Yeah.
cool.
They were awesome. I
Yeah.
mean, they took us in, like we said, had lasagna. They were great, great people. And we didn't know them. I obviously didn't know him. We heard about him from Brian and Casey because they'd met him and stayed with him. And so when we got there, we were trying to figure out where to stay. Because that was the other thing going north is they said we couldn't lay over in Caltag.
Yeah, so that changed last minute
Well, we were in Galena.
because they had a COVID outbreak.
Oh shoot.
And so the one person that's in charge of kind of the well-being of the village
Right.
said, no, we'd like it if it was just a gas and go stop.
Right.
And then you guys just pass through. But then in Uniclete, there were some different COVID rules there too. And we had to be within 72 hours of our last COVID test, which we were going northbound, but southbound we weren't.
But they had changed it in
But
that
they
time.
changed it
Because
during
of the
that time
Caltech.
frame. So we didn't know. And so we get to Galena, and it's like, you go Galena to Nome. It's like, it's kind of a long ride. You'd rather just get off the river, just get on the coast, and then you're riding the coast the next day. And so we pushed forward, and we got there, I want to say like 11, going northbound to Uniclete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, it's like, I mean, we walk into the little grocery store where the little headquarters is for all the racers that are coming in. There's still 10, 15 people up, Where do you need a ride? They're driving us around the village in their personal cars. They're not asking for anything. They're just happy that we're there.
Right. Just kind of happy to be part of it.
Yep. And then Galena and basically a whole potlatch style feed for us. We're just in the kind of community center,
Right.
just all hanging out. We're only there for 2 hours, but there's probably 10 different entrees of food,
People
whatever
were
you
bringing
want.
in all kinds of stuff and feeding us, and they were just doing it because they cared.
Right.
That's super cool. Yeah.
And then there's guys out there like Alvin and Galena that's out there when pretty much every team comes in, and he was videoing, going on Facebook for families and friends and people to see.
Right.
So he would go running out there when he knew a team was coming in and take time out of his day to sit there and do that all for the couple days we were going through there too.
And then if you need parts, you just say, hey, where players, this sled is or anything. And they're like, oh, yeah, this person might have it. Let me try to call them. And then if they let you take the parts, let me run you up there. They'll drive you all around town. And it's just, it could be 2 a.m. They don't care. It's just something new and exciting. And
They look forward to it, I'm sure. Yeah, that's really cool. Is there any moments for you that was wild?
Yeah, there's a few times I saw Jesus, go.
I told you. I knew it was going to happen. Just like mine and my moose that I thought I ran over. What? You saw Jesus. Explain. Was it just fatigue? You were just zoned out?
Just you get in a section where it's smooth for a while, and you kind of start to relax, and you're like, okay, cruising along, going fairly fast, like on the Yukon. On the way back, my auxiliary light stopped working, and so I was cruising along there, and I kind of didn't see this bump, and all of a sudden I'm airborne doing 70 or 80, and that's
when you saw Jesus.
yeah.
That's awesome.
few moments like that where just stuff you don't see or didn't
Didn't it? Yeah.
yeah, like I said, you start to relax, and then all of a sudden something comes up, and then and then certain things, like he would go over something and it was smooth for him, but he would either drop the ice out on the South Fork, and then I would hit it, and he didn't realize that it fell out under him, and then all of a sudden I'm cruising into it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna just go straight through the handlebars right here.
or I tell him, stay on my tail light. It's bad visibility. You can't see. And then I come up on those situations, and I'm just like, I'm full clinch, like, oh my God, I can't believe I just made it through. And then I don't even have time. I'm like, oh, I didn't even check him, like, to let him know.
Yeah.
And then I just look back, and he's, like, still sitting there. I'm like, okay, I ain't even going to ask. Like,
Or I see something that looks rough, and I think if I move over, I'm going to avoid it, and then it's even worse for me, that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, he looked like he got crossed up there. I'm just going to try and hit it right here, then it's not any better.
Yeah. What about you, Zach? Any moments for you?
Yeah, so leaving Nome, it's like, oh, man, it's kind of bad visibility. It's kind of like flat light, so it's like, okay, not too bad, but I know the road was smooth, and all it takes is one or two. You know, I hit a couple of these wind drifts on the road. So I know they're there. You just don't know when you're going to hit them.
Right.
And it's like, next thing I know, I'm probably maybe only 15 feet off the ground, but at 90 miles an hour and straight up and down, you know, because you hit these vertical wind drifts. And it's just like, oh my, and you know, and he comes through and he saw like I hit something, so he checks up a little bit. Not a big deal at all.
Yeah.
But then I just hit it and I just sailed like 100 feet down the trail. And it's like,
Tommy comes over and rolls it. He's like, that was cool.
Yeah.
there's just a lot of those little things.
That flat light's gnarly. It's good. It's, you know, it's just.
You take it for advantage on like a road, like where it's like, oh yeah, it's like, I just can't see out in the swamp, but you're on a black road.
Right.
So you have that perception of like what you're on, and the road's smooth. You know, the worst you're going to hit's a 1 foot pothole or something, you know? And so, but when we're out there and everything's white.
Right.
So when there's no context or texture to the terrain.
There's no definition.
Yeah, it's just like.
It's like Braille.
Yeah.
Literally.
There was a few times like going across, what lake was that up by Selwick or Kobuk Lake? I mean, you couldn't see very well on that. It was kind of ground storming, and you're just like going along, and all of a sudden you're like, boom, boom, and you just don't really know what's coming. The whole time you're just kind of clenched, just
waiting
for the one that's going to hit
bad
it.
thing. It's like you're just waiting, you know. It's like, but you keep on getting riskier. So it's like, okay, this is a comfortable place. I can hit whatever, and then you go, and then it's like, oh, it's really smooth. So you go up 5 miles an hour. Okay, it's still kind of smooth. So you go up another 5 miles an hour. So now you're 10 miles an hour past where you thought was comfortable, and then you hit something, and then you're just all over the place. And you're like, oh my gosh, and then you back away back down. Yeah. And so it's just that yo-yo effect back and forth, and it's just. But you could have been 6 inches to the left, and it would have been way smooth. But with no visibility, no tracks ahead of you, you just don't know.
Right.
And so a lot of that, you know, I'm just falling off GPS tracks from last year, but they call it Kobuk Lake. It's the ocean.
Right.
It's just the cove of the ocean that they call the lake, and it's like, it gets pretty nasty. Every time I've been through there, it's been pretty choppy, nasty, and they get some gnarly winds out there in the Kotzebue area.
Yeah. Huh.
Nice and flat.
Yeah, that sounds nice. Well, the office was 75 and warm the whole time.
Apparently it was 75 and too. Guys were rolling out no coats and flip-flops.
Yeah. What do you think for next year, Tommy? Do you think you'll do anything different, like prepping-wise, for you personally?
What are you going to do next year?
I don't know.
He's already in it. He's got the...
We haven't settled back down yet from the race and discussed next year completely. But
Whatever. You got the bite. You're in now. Yeah.
Maybe.
Fifth place rookie year. You got to get that podium now, bud.
I know. That's what everyone keeps telling me. But I don't know. We, like I said, we haven't really discussed it for next year. I know he had already kind of thought about taking a year off, but.
What?
I need a break, man. I say it like I want a break, but it's also like I look at it too. Like my dad's really interested in doing like trail class.
Oh, let's get our dads together.
So like I've thought about that kind of idea, but also just maybe take a step back and then just be more support too.
Right.
But then come May, I'm like, no, I'm ready to go.
Right.
You know, it's one of those hard things, but it's just hard to try and stay in it for so long. Like some of these guys, I don't know how they do it for 20 years.
Yeah.
Just to stay in it. I mean, it's so much work, you know. If I didn't work all winter, it might be different. Mm-hmm. But a full-time job, and then it's a full-time job when I get home.
Right.
You know, and it's you try to be
months.
you try to be in the gym and be physically active, you know, like so that way that part physically you're in shape, that's not a worry at all. But then you need your sled portion to be ready too. And you got to give or take, but when you're working, you know, 8 to 10 hours a day, and then you're in the garage till midnight 1. You got to be back up at 6.
Hold on. Mike, I need a what do you say drop. That was. Oh, you're not even.
What did he say?
You said you went to the gym?
No.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Talking about gym life. All right, Zach. We know that's a false accusation here.
I mean, I
last time you went to the gym, we were like 18, bro.
yeah. But it's different. Like, I don't know. Like, my first 2 years of doing the Iron Dog, I definitely focused more on physical shape because I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
But now I'm mentally, like, I feel a lot of it is mental to me. Like,
Right.
your body, if you're mentally set, your physical body will match it and follow.
Right.
So if your physical drops off, then your mental drops off, then it's a double-edged sword. You're kind of screwed.
Right.
Yeah.
But as long as you can stay mentally in it, and that's where, like, I'm sure there's a lot of times where he's like, dude, just come on, like, go a little bit slower or, just take it a little bit easier. But it's like me mentally, I was so like, this is easy to me. I'm just going like point A to point B. I need to back down, let me know.
Right.
But, his mental aspect, it's a lot to take on your first year. And then so it's more physically draining on you too.
Yeah.
So then he gets more fatigued because of that too, where
Did you feel more tired? Did you kind of feel? Oh yeah, like
Are you still recovering?
No,
You're
actually,
good?
yeah, I'm doing good
I mean,
now.
you're jumping some big jumps there and turn again, so I'm assuming you're all right.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, the mental thing was the biggest thing. And once you kind of get into it after a couple days, you start to settle into a routine and realize it. We did a training ride over grass, so I kind of knew what to expect going there. But then that next day going up that way, we dealt with ice fog going north. It was awful. I mean, we stopped 3 or 4 times trying to thaw our goggles out because we could not see. So then he takes his goggles off, and he's just riding no goggles.
Just commando.
And I tried it, and I was not having a good time. I was starting to hit stuff and make mistakes, so I slowed down, put my goggles back on, and he started leaving me behind, and I was just like, I don't know, I'm going to make a mistake here, And
Right.
It's that's where it's more mental. Like, to me, I'm just like, I know what this road's already going to be like. I've been down it. So to me, it's a little bit easier, and it's like, if I'm going to hit something, I'm going to hit something, but it's not going to be like a day ender.
Right.
Where he doesn't know. And so it's harder, it's harder just to be in the unknown, following someone into, like, I could drive him right off a cliff, and he wouldn't know any better.
So there's a lot of trust in your hands at that moment with Tommy behind you.
I just tell him, follow the taillight. If it
Did
disappears,
you get tired
stop.
of hearing that? You're like, I don't know, bro. This is sketchy.
I told him he needs to do some squats next year. I was tired of looking at his flat ass.
Yeah, we're gonna get Zach into the gym. Yeah. That's awesome. So it sounds like everything that kind of happened throughout the race, it was a pretty good year.
I take away all the stuff we broke. If we would have had a completely clean year, we didn't really have issues that were self-inflicted. He hit a tree, but during the different circumstances, without all the other issues, that might have been different. So the broken parts, mechanically, that kind of stuff, that's where it's so hard, and that's where the luck comes into this race.
Right.
Take that stuff away, and I don't see why we couldn't have been right there in that third place.
Right. And I mean, Shane and Troy,
they had issues too.
That's
we
what
were
I'm saying.
horse trading at
Yeah.
one of the checkpoints. They needed torsion spring. We needed rear shock. Hey, we got that. You guys have that. So it's good old fashioned horse trade in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
so if you guys look at the split times with that little burn issue, you guys would have been right there, fourth, third.
Yeah.
And that's where too it sucked. It's like I kind of knew that leaving Dome. Team 14, Brian got hurt, so they dropped out. Team 6 got a penalty.
What was the penalty for?
Outside assistance. What? So they ran out of fuel and got help from a village.
Would they dock him? How many points?
Only an hour.
Only an hour. He says only an hour, and he talks about 34 seconds in the end of the race.
But you look at the rule. It's one of. I'm not going to get into it. At the end of the day, they were faster. But it's one of those. It's one of those. It's a rule. Outside assistance is DQable, but I get to. You don't want to take a team out.
Right. Yeah.
And
I guess an hour is. Yeah. Is what it is.
They're 5 miles out. So how far do you think, or how long do you think it would take you to walk 5 miles?
Shoot.
Quite a,
especially carrying gas.
Yeah, pretty decent amount of time, man.
So I thought we all felt an hour
10
was
miles.
more than kind of favorable. But
Right.
at the end of the day,
We're
they
talking
were
about Robbie
faster.
Shackle here. He's an animal.
I think
might
he
just
ran
run
out
it.
of fuel 15 miles back.
Oh Jesus! Oh goodness! Yeah. So, what? We're gonna talk about a few things before we let you guys go. But what do you think of the snow machine catching on fire? Everybody has their assumptions. What happened? What do you think happened? Just from
I
your
know it
own.
was heartbreaking. That would have been.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For them to come up from Wisconsin,
Wisconsin, yeah.
and to have that happen. I mean,
Yeah. Shout out Leah wherever you are.
Yeah, literally go up in flames.
Literally.
But
Fire.
And
what's weird,
figuratively.
it's like, so all the previous fires that we've seen, I don't think there's been any on, like, just straight up on the trail.
It's always been.
They've
at the
all
gas
been at a
pump.
checkpoint at
Yeah.
a gas pump where fuel's spilled, fuel's over, something happens like that. And for that just to happen, I mean, it's got to be electrical or something rubbed and caught fire, something along those lines.
They were going too slow. They couldn't keep up with the stator; it just overheated.
Yeah.
But
then the wind was so windy that it just engulfed it. And, it's like, if it was just a small fire, she smelt it. She stopped right away, opened her side panel, tried to put it out. But the wind was so vicious on the Yukon. Like, I haven't seen it that windy on the Yukon ever. It was 30, 40 mile an hour winds, probably blowing snow. I mean, it's pretty much white out. And it just took off. And there's nothing they could do. And you try to rip everything off that you can. But, I look at the snowmobile. 12 to 15 for the sled.
1,000.
Yeah, 12 to 15,000 for the sled. And then you look at everything that's gone into it. Your auxiliary bags, auxiliary lighting, fuel
sleeping
tank,
bag, GPS.
everything. I bet
I
you
don't
at the
know
end
what she
of, I
salvaged
bet you at the
off
end
of
of the day, it was probably a $22,000 to $24,000 loss just right there, burnt up on the river. Man, out of your control. It's like if it was in a checkpoint, there'd be a fire extinguisher there.
That's what I was just gonna say. So the next check item you're gonna have to take with you on the Iron Dog is a fire extinguisher.
We don't have any more room.
No, you got room. We'll figure it out. Yeah.
I'll be standing there peeing on my sled if that happens.
Get the marshmallows out. You got room for those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
InReach say we're on fire, but we just need a ride this time.
That's the only thing you're sending. Yeah.
Yeah, what a shit way to go out.
Yeah, out of, I don't remember exactly how, I think it was 5 out-of-state teams, but 1 finished out-of-state, like a full out-of-state.
yeah,
the
the
29. 29
Oh, yeah.
was-
Oh, the
Utah
Yetis.
guys, the
Last place.
second to last
Oh,
place.
second to last.
Yeah,
And then the Dorn brothers,
yeah, 29.
13th or 12th, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
They had a lot of issues too, but it was cool to see. So one of the guys that raced with Leah and one of the Dorn brothers actually raced last year together.
yeah, Jacob and Dylan.
Yep.
Was it Dylan? Something like that.
Dustin?
Yeah.
Dustin
There's a bunch
Dorn.
of D's in that name.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Dorn
which
brothers, that's all I know. But one of them had a tumble outside Koyuk last year, and they ended up scratching because of that. So it's cool to see both those guys came back, and they each brought somebody with them.
Yeah,
So
that's good for the sport.
That's another
good
team
for-
right there.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
cool.
It's cool to see that much support outside coming up.
Right.
Previously you might see one team come up from lower 48. Now we're starting to see pretty regularly at least 3. I think this year 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think it was 5. Yeah.
So-
full out of state team.
But
Yeah.
just seeing the outside people come in, and it's hard for them to be competitive, because it's a different race for them. But
Right.
it's just cool to see the outside support, and hopefully it grows.
Those two guys are high level racers.
Oh yeah,
down
from
in the States,
cross country, the
they
ISOC
are-
series or whatever it is
Exactly.
called. Yeah,
and them coming up here, and it's a whole different world, that race.
yeah, yeah.
And it's the mental and physical drain of it. Just that's what eats everyone up at the end of the day. It's even you look at those guys and they come in and they're just beat.
Oh yeah.
But then they can go down there and they can race 200 miles at a high tempo race where we would all be beat. And, so just that's why I say it's mental. This whole race ends up being
honestly,
mental.
it seems like it. I mean, you guys are sitting here talking about it, and it's like, well, it's just really mental. Like, who's the strongest mentally?
It's like take 2 people off the street. They could probably both run 100 meters, but would they be able to run a marathon? Because a marathon runner, it is physical, but it's the mental aspect of pushing past that factor to know to keep going.
Yeah, I couldn't run a marathon. I'm mentally not strong enough.
Almost just shake your head like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. I hit that 100 meters and I'm like, all right, where's the beer cart?
Yep.
So
But then you get the people that are, I mean, look at dog mushers. Look at Adidasport.
Yeah, talk about that.
People are biking to Nome.
Yeah, they did
1,100 miles or walking.
Dude, it's the dog mushing.
Yeah.
1,100 miles.
Yeah. That's
Well, so
Right.
right now, I think they're in Nikolai.
no way.
And so
That's it?
day 2, they are in Nikolai. And they've probably already gone, 16, 18 hours, where we're in McGrath, another 60 miles past Nikolai in 8.5 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
And their average speed's like 6 miles an hour. And that's where I'm like, that's a different type of toughness because, yeah, it's warm right now, so it's probably not as miserable. But 35 below, just sitting there going 6 miles an hour, it's like, and then you got to care for your dogs at each checkpoint, and they're the priority. You're not the priority at all. So you might get 4 hours of sleep in a day for 2 weeks. Takes them 2 weeks to get
actually
to
had
know.
this conversation at that stoplight right over there. I was like, think about it. So, like, Zach and Tommy just raced this race, and all they have is themselves as a team, and then they have their snow machines that, put gas in it, put fuel in it. Sometimes you got to change a shock here and there. But think about having dogs, like having to care for them, feed them, make sure they got a bed.
Not just your 1 or 2 dogs, at home there. It's,
Yeah.
what, 12, 14?
Yeah, 12, 14. They start
don't
with
know how
like,
many.
yeah,
Yeah.
12 or 14.
And they're not even sleeping in beds, It's like if we're sleeping somewhere or laying over, we have a bed or we're inside a building, we're somewhere where it's warm, we're taking our gear off. They take their hay with them down the trail. They're camped out on the trail. They're sleeping with their dogs in the trail, in their sleeping bags, cuddled up with them, whatever it takes, and I'm like, man, those guys are tough to me.
So are you saying you couldn't do that Iditarod?
No,
He says absolutely not.
no.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. Yeah.
Uncle's got some pretty cool stories. He's a
His
Red Lantern winner.
Yeah.
And it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, please. Just some stories of him on the Iditarod Trail, and that's what it is caring for the animals and dropping dogs and all that, It's like, because now you go from a team of 14, 12 to a team of 10 or,
Yeah, so when you have
Encounter a
14,
moose.
you could do 6 miles an hour.
Right.
You drop 4 dogs, you can only do 4 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It's
The moose thing's been crazy with
yeah,
some of the
dude,
dogs
like,
lately.
yeah, moose on trails, like,
Teams getting trampled.
Trampled big
not
time.
during the Iditarod, but during training.
yeah.
Yeah. That's wild.
But it happens during the race too,
Yeah.
like dogs dying on trail, like all that, so
We're going to keep this going. How are we going to change Iron Dog for next year? What do you guys think? What would you like to see?
$1 million to each team in the top 10.
like just top 10.
I think there's a positive influence in the board right now where they can make some changes where it's going to go a lot better and smoother. Where for the racers, it's not so physically draining, because it's hard for those the back half of the teams. It's really tough.
Yeah.
When you look at layovers and you look at times and if you have issues, there's no reason why we should ever be kind of forced, maybe due to weather, but still 700 miles in a day.
Yeah.
Man.
It's like last year, I want to say we went Kotzebue to McGrath, which I want to say was right around the same. Might have been 800 miles. And it's like, what I said, Seattle to San Francisco.
Yeah, I think that's what you said. Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason why, I get it. Like, we're elite athletes at the end of the day, and it's like that's what we train to do and what we're out there to do. But to get more people involved, you kind of, that 400-mile a day kind of thing, it's a little bit more manageable to keep everyone together too.
What do you think about doing that, like a semi-pro? Some kind of like semi-pro, like transition between the trail class and a semi-pro.
I think the payout going all the way to 10th place is basically like having a semi-pro.
Right.
Yeah, so 6 through 10, either you get a free entry,
Yeah.
or $2,500 cash. That's how it was this year. Previous years, top 5, that's it. Right. And so at least they're getting something. But if you add like another class to it, I just see where the drawback would be the pros, you know, it's not going to be that elite,
Right.
you know. So it's like you look down south, and you have a trophy class, and then you have pro class.
Right.
So it's either a trophy or money. It's like, are you a pro or are you just doing it for fun?
Right.
So that's where the trail class is. You want to go check it out.
I'm
and
totally
see
down
you
for
did it.
that.
Yeah.
Can I just like carry the booze, the fuel, and like the boombox in the back
Oh,
for
do
you guys
that.
next year? Or what?
I heard some stories from the trail class this year. It sounds like they had a heck of a time with
Well, I look at their days. You know, we're going to McGrath day one. They cut that in half, and you know, I see their pictures of them having beer around dinner table, and the next day they go to McGrath,
yeah.
and the next day they only go to Galena. You know, it's like all their days are cut in half compared to us, and it's like,
That sounds amazing. totally gonna do this next year.
Aspire
I will.
Realty Group
Yeah.
will be sponsoring a
I'll be
trail class.
sponsoring trail class team this next year.
Yeah, we're just gonna get an otter sled for Justin to pull for all of us. We'll get the
stage parts at every checkpoint.
Yeah.
Throw me in a toboggan, bro. We went with the beer bong hat, you know, just kind of rolling down the trail.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll get
He'll
the,
be in those little sleds that you tow behind for your kids.
oh, those
Well,
are
one
the
sweet.
funny,
bubbles,
dude.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
bubbles, the heated bubble.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those what Skidoo makes those, right?
Like teardrop one.
Yeah. That's awesome. We'll get the dads together. We'll have a good old time.
As long as Tony's not driving, I think I'll be okay.
Yeah. Gotta stay away from those trees, bro. Yeah. No, I think with Iron Dog's whole, it feels like it's kind of a scrambled race. Like who can get where the fastest and what kind of layovers you want to take.
So the layover was nice in certain situations. Being
Well, it
able
sounds
to be
like
flexible.
with
our
the
situations
yeah.
and stuff like that, being able to get parts.
Because there was
stuff.
times too, you know, it's like, not to cut them off, but we had to take 14 hours before McGrath or in McGrath.
right.
So, you know, you could take a couple hours here or there before McGrath.
Yeah.
But like we ran into an instance where we took an hour, we got the parts we needed, tore into it, needed more parts, but then we were able to add on another hour because we still had that flexibility.
Right.
And then we were only taking, you know, it's like, yeah, we probably should have took a 12 in Uniclete to get more rest, but we only took a 9. That way you still stay in that daytime because it's when you're riding in the trees and those rougher trains, it's nice. I wouldn't say it's always faster, but it's nicer to ride in the daytime, as long as your visibility is good and that kind of thing. But the leaders were out on the trail too, so we know the trail was packed in and we're not going to be breaking trail.
Right.
You know, so it's kind of the game. You're playing that guessing game of like strategy of, you know, where you want to be. But we were just taking an hour at every single checkpoint to fix something coming back. It was just
Yeah. So is it, I guess to kind of go, can Nick and Tyler be beat? That's kind of the big question.
Yeah.
What?
Luck was on their side.
Yeah, exactly. And I
I mean, if
think,
they would have broke 2 or 3 things, Chris and Mike were right there.
yeah.
You know, there's Team 39 were pushing them all the way to the coast. Team 14 ran with them all the way to Nome.
I'm going to give you some insider that I heard, and I'll probably get shot for this, but did you know that Nick and Tyler take all their stuff to get x-rayed to make sure they're the exact part they want on their sled?
Make sure the welds are all.
Yeah, exactly. And
But that's
so-
where it's
sorry,
gone,
Corey.
though.
Sorry, Corey. I
That's
just gave the secret
kind
away.
of level it's gone to
Right,
be
yeah.
competitive, you know. And it used to be like 20 years ago. It was just you buy 2 sleds, 2 guys are like,
Let's
"Yeah,
go for
let's
it."
set the beer down this week, and we're going to go ride it. You know.
Yeah.
But
And
their
now-
normal training ride was Squinting and back.
Yeah.
You know, and now and then they, you know, talked to Tyson, you know, when he started out, he's like, we went to Pentilla and back in a day. Like, that's like going to McGrath and back, you know.
Yeah, the speed.
You know, McGrath and back is no big deal anymore. You know, that used to be a big deal 10 years ago.
Right.
And, you know, if you went McGrath and back training like 20 years ago, that's like unheard of.
Right.
Absolutely unheard of.
But
And
now
it's-
Nick and Tyler are going to Kotzebue before.
Yeah.
They're doing a training run
Before
all
the
way.
race
So they basically
starts.
pre-run the whole course before, you know, and it's just kind of the level it's gone to, but it's also support and money,
Right.
and you know, but at the end of the day, you look at every single racer, they're all that exact same.
Yeah,
We
for
all
sure.
have a day job.
Yeah.
There's not a single one of us that would do this for a profession. Yeah, you could call us professional athletes, but we all have a day job.
You're a professional for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have a day job, you know, and it's like you go down to like the Baja races and those kind of races, that's all they do. They're focused on 4 races a year.
Right.
Right.
They also have pretty some pretty substantial sponsors.
Yeah, their budgets, their budgets,
Their budgets are
are a
pretty
couple
enormous.
zeros added to ours,
Right.
Yeah. 7+ figures.
When we
You
have
know?
2 sleds and most of our stuff paid for, it's like, oh yeah, we're looking pretty good, and
Yeah,
they're like, yeah, our truck costs $250K,
yeah, at least.
They're making money.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
it's actually a career. Like
Yeah.
it's something that's providing them, revenue to when they're doing it. You guys are like, I say this in the most up respect, but you're like that weekend warrior that's like, I'm going to be a professional for a week and go race the Iron Dog. But realistically,
We're a weekend warrior that the kid probably has a rich daddy that just like pushed him through, kind of thing,
yeah, shout out Three Bears. Yeah. But no, I totally, I get that. And I think the more we kind of highlight these things like podcasts like this or like getting the outreach to people, I would love to see Iron Dog turn into like a huge event
If
with,
they could get some kind of media coverage throughout the race somehow, if they could figure out how to do drones at checkpoints coming in, catching teams coming in
Right.
for 10 miles out, something like that where they could get some more footage to where you could view, teams coming in places
Yeah.
on like the TV would be
The hardest thing though, it's
so long and so desolate.
yeah, and it's the weather. You look at these other races, like I look at like Dakar. So Dakar's probably the only one that's really comparable to Iron Dog,
right?
but there's not much coverage there either.
Right.
So
No.
you get a few helicopter plane videos, and that's about it. And you just look at their split times that they had for the day. But then you go to like Baja races or like the Mint 400. Those are all within the U.S., in the States, a couple 100 miles each day. But it's in a controlled environment, 75 plus. The weather's good. And so when you come out to here for the Iron Dog, it's 35 below, 40 below. You can't always fly because they're going to be
Right.
blowing snow, flat light. Planes are usually grounded. Like we always pay for the plane support. We might see them half the time if we're lucky.
Right.
Yeah,
And so that's where it's hard too. It's how do you really grow that media?
right.
But I feel like there could be more
Right.
effort on
You
some
hear
of that,
that,
stuff
Mike?
to get.
You hear that, Mike? We need some more media on the Iron Dog. So
I
Daddy-
will say within the last couple of years, like just
It's
the
got a lot
Facebook
better.
stuff, like
yeah,
Right.
Iron Dog group, it's like, we just go there. We're in a checkpoint. We want any info. We could just go there and it's already posted.
yeah.
Stan Brown,
Yeah.
he'll go through and he'll find everybody's split times and average them out, just from, because we could be in a checkpoint for 4 minutes. We could have changed a belt or done something or just fueling, but he'll still calculate from the time that we actually left to when we actually arrived. Then we all know our split times.
yeah,
Pretty
and so
awesome.
now, we're right where you're at. And it's like, that guy,
yeah. He lives and breathes it.
he needs a full-time job with Iron Dog just to do that because we all appreciate it.
Yeah, he definitely does a really good job. Yeah, I mean, one thing you're talking about, like down south with like those different races, but there's so many different variables you can look at. Like, think about sitting in a car when it's 95 degrees outside.
So you see, bro.
What? No, you don't. I mean, yeah. I was actually talking to Brett
those
about
Ford
this.
mirrors that
Yeah.
kind of look out there, that's all they have.
Yeah. No, I was talking to Brett about
And
this.
out the window, you're just
Yeah.
kind of doing this action,
Going down the highway, just doing the wave.
We got 6 inches of travel. They have like 40.
Yeah.
Right.
But
It's impressive what those things will hit.
yeah, but with that is, I mean, you have that different variable. Like, I mean, for me, I would personally just take the cold over 95 in a buggy.
I don't know.
I don't know. We should try to figure it out.
I get pretty cold.
Yeah. Well, sounds like it was a good year for Zach to do the Iron Dog. It wasn't
Except
cold.
for this year.
I'm
Yeah.
that guy that's like, yeah, he's got 5 layers on.
Yeah, well, you have like 3% body fat, so
Hey.
yeah, he doesn't go to the gym. 3% body fat. He's always freezing. Tommy, what do you think? Were you ever like to the point where you're like, man, I just need to take all my gear off and just run my motocross gear?
I contemplated taking my head sock off and just going no face mask for a lot of it. But then I was thinking I'm going to end up with frostbite.
Well, that's where I brought him in this year, and he was like, I showed him, kind of just give him a 411 of like what I wore, recommendations for everything, and he's like, dude, I never worn a face mask.
What? You never? Oh, I mean, I guess
He's like, I ride in the mountains. I don't wear a face mask. If it's 20 below, I don't go ride. I'm like,
Yeah. If it's not sunny, I don't go.
Yeah,
That, sir, is brilliance.
I mean,
yeah. He looks out the window. He's like, oh, it looks like it's going blue, code blue. We better go.
right.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Are you guys gonna race any other races this year? Gonna hit Mayor's Cup?
I've thought about it, but
I'm gonna go down to Mayor's Cup. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, there's not a lot of trees down there, so you should be all right.
I've raced it before.
I know. I'm just saying.
he still found
It's
some
still
alders.
found some alders.
come. Yeah,
Maybe I'll ride out there and be support
I'll
in
go
those
with you.
couple sections.
We'll take it. We'll take it as
He's gonna
fire
give me a
banner.
ski pole.
Come give him a ski pole.
Yeah, yeah. We'll go hogs back and get ready for you to give you a ski
No,
pole.
he made it past all the hard parts.
I just swapped in a corner right after that before he got on the river.
Yeah.
Went off in the alders, and I got stuck a couple of years ago for, I don't know.
He was
third.
there for 2 laps.
Yeah,
I still got third.
yeah.
Semi-pro, but
Well done.
it's first race.
Well done.
He
Yeah.
was there for a while, though.
If I just had someone to give me a ski pole in that race, I would have had no issues. I spent so much time trying to get myself out, roll my sled over,
Right.
and everyone just kept.
And then
going
that ruins
by
your
me.
race. You know, it's like one of those things. It just ruins everything.
Yeah.
And it's like you're so physically beat. It takes you a lap to kind of settle back in.
Right.
But then that fatigue level will start setting in. You know, you could start getting arm pump. You know, that's where it's hard too on the sprint races because you don't breathe.
Right.
You know, when we're Iron Dog, it's like you really focus on just like, and we're not full out sprint speed. We're not trying to go as hard as we absolutely can. Yeah, we're going fast, but it's controlled fast where it's like, no matter what I hit, some way or somehow I'm going to be able to save this.
Right.
You know, here and there it does get away from you, but it's all controlled.
Because you start getting into the, like you said, the mental part where you start going, I can go faster, I know I can, and then you start making mistakes.
It's like
that you
gambling.
wouldn't, like,
Yeah.
and you're that fine line of where
And then you get to the checkpoint and you look at your split time and it's like, oh, we're within a minute of the top 5 teams. And so it's like, you know, that's where it's hard too because it's like, oh, I know I could have pushed harder and I could have made up 4 minutes, but pushing a little bit harder, that could have costed us the whole race because we could have wrecked.
Right. Yeah. I think what it really comes down to is, like you said, it's the mental. You're so mentally just like, okay, is it worth the gamble to pick up 5, like you said, 5-10 mile an hour, or should I just stay consistent? And then you get to the checkpoint and you're like, well, we're right within, 5 minutes or whatever. it
That's
is.
where I feel. I don't know. I've always succeeded in those mental aspects. Just mentally,
I've seen
I
you
can
lose
completely, but I can completely zone out, and that's like that's it. Like I get tunnel vision, I don't see anything. They're like, "Oh, did you see this or that?" And I'm just like,
Yeah, Tommy's back there. You're like, did you see that back there? That was really cool. And Zach's like, I didn't see anything.
it's
Yeah.
like somebody could describe, "Oh, that wind drift," and I'm like, "Yeah, I remember seeing it, but like, I just went through it." You know, it's
Right.
like I can't describe. You know, some people wrecked on a certain wind drift, and I'm like, "Yeah, I remember seeing the wind drift, but." We just went through it, and like I guess I could see it, but like where you guys could do it, but
Did you see that video of Kelly crashing in
that
Milano?
was so
right
funny.
in front of his hometown.
Yeah,
Poor
yeah,
guy.
yeah. That's so awesome. It was such a good video too because I was like sitting there and I actually showed him and I was like, "Oh, it's gonna happen! It's gonna happen! When's it gonna happen?" Next thing you know, he's just swapping and then he's off his sled. Did you guys remember that bump at all? Do you remember that?
I mean, it's always choppy right there, and
Yeah.
it's.
And I mean, he's from there. He should have known.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like you start like different parts of the race, like different trails or trains. Like if you start hitting something that's a little sketch in that area, there's so much snow in the river, just shoot off into the snow.
Right.
And just hope there's not a piece of drift.
Well,
there
I
or
don't
something.
think
Yeah.
I don't think he had an option because
No.
he swapped really hard.
He swapped twice and he just said, "Nope, I'll take the high road and I'll land in the snow."
Yeah,
You know?
it was good. It was great for that media.
It wasn't like
content.
my last year highlight video.
That was the best. Oh, so just to highlight that, we didn't see any of that this year, so I'm proud of you. Good job.
I don't think I got stuck once.
You didn't
Like
come. You didn't come off sled at all. Did Tommy come off sled?
Just the one time, first day.
Oh, where you actually came off the sled first
He
day?
tumbled.
Oh,
broke
when you broke the
windshield.
windshield. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, that's pretty good for 2,600 miles. No one besides Tommy came off the sled. So one out
Well,
of
there was a lot of windshields missing in Nome. I wasn't the only one.
yeah, we're not picking on you, Tommy. I'm just saying.
And that's
For you-
that's where it's so like hard to try and like I try to just tell him it's like just don't get caught up in the moment, just focus on the goal.
right.
And that's where it's hard to try and tell him that.
You don't know unless you do it.
Yeah.
It's something you can only learn by doing. You're not going to just.
No matter how slow I went, he would still could get into that moment,
Right.
you know? And so it's like I just kind of cruised and like, yeah, we were still I wasn't like holding back, but it was still in those moments where I'm like, oh, this might be, like he needs to experience this before, like, there's different sections, like going to Kotzebue. It's like, it's pretty choppy, and that stuff could catch up to you real quick.
Right.
I did get pretty angry because it was so choppy and my sled was stiff, and so I just held it wide open. I was just like,
Going for it.
either you go slow or you're going to keep up kind of thing,
Right,
but it's like some of those things where it's like the risk versus reward, that's where you got to kind of balance out. Where some teams will risk it, some teams will hold back.
Yeah.
And you look at the teams that risked it, 1 out of 2 wrecked.
Right. There was a couple that I saw some pictures, like Brett and
It's
Cody.
crazy what our bodies will go through and still walk away from. When I look at these wrecks and this high speeds and like just myself personally, I'm like, man, I don't know how we're still walking away from these every single time.
That's
knock on wood.
Yeah.
It still happens to a lot of people too, but it's
Brett, I saw Brett at the finish, and he was telling me about his little get off, and his arm got stuck up on the track, and it like dragged him along. And he's like, I literally was just trying to bail, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, my arm's wrapped up in my track, and I'm getting dragged along.
But that's all it takes, though.
Right.
Like poor Brian, it was a simple little thing that got him. And
10 miles an hour.
What? I didn't know that. I didn't.
So
I didn't
a-
even know
there's
what
a
happened, Brian.
water skip.
There was a pond probably as long as this room. It was overflow, but I mean, I consider it more a little pond. Casey went through it. Brian went through it, hit it 2 feet to the right. There was an ice ledge on the other side, and it just kicked. And it just kicked his rear end around, and he just came off his sled. But the way he landed, there's, jarred up ice. It's out on the sea ice, All the tracks were over here to the left, 2 feet to the right. There was no tracks. His body landed right on a little ice ledge.
And
His whole side was just black and blue. I mean, it was, he bruises liver,
Kidneys. And so it messed up his enzyme numbers.
Yeah, he damaged his kidneys, so they could tell from that. And
Just the impact of it all. Just
Yeah, that's crazy, and that's what like we keep going back to is like just this.
It's kind of luck still.
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
luck.
Yeah.
I mean, like we talk about these, like Zach has mentioned, like you go 6 inches to the right or a foot to the right, like it's smooth. But like Tommy said, like I tried to go this way and it wasn't smooth. Like it's so really specific. Like you're like, okay, here's the beaten trail, but if I go over here, it might be smooth. It's like just back to that risk or reward. Like, do you do it or do you don't? And then in Brian's case,
started to learn that anywhere you saw the trail get really narrow, there was a reason. There was either a hole or a tree or something,
Was there anything in the race that you were just like, I don't even see how this happens? Like one spot that I'm thinking of in my head is like from Caltag to Uniclete. Is like some of those little bridges, and
that bridge is scary. He didn't know it was there, which I had no idea coming up to it, but he had checked up pretty good. But there's a bridge that's 5 foot wide or so that you go across, and you're going across a swamp, cruising. I mean, and then all of a sudden it's just this little bridge, and there's a 10, 15 foot wide creek that you can't see,
right?
And there's just little red reflector on each corner of it.
Yeah.
And
so
to me, I was thinking, I wonder how many teams have missed that and hit that creek.
There's been a couple teams that have missed it.
Yeah, I totally missed it. I just jumped to the other side and I smacked the other side of the wall and just ate the handlebars and the windshield lid of the throat.
So 3 years ago,
what happened?
3 years ago, I actually checked up for that same bridge. Went pretty slow, but it's a narrow little bridge and it's just hard pack enough just for your skis to sit on. So if you dip a ski left or right, it just sucks you down into the railing. And it actually happened to me halfway across it, and it pinched my hand, and I had a pinky. I don't think it dislocated, but it like stuck through the little fencing that it had. And Brett, my old partner, actually had to physically come, put my sled in reverse because my hand was stuck. I couldn't do anything. Reverse my sled up. I could pull my hand out, and then we were able to keep going. But it was like a 5 mile an hour deal, but we wasted 5 minutes there.
Right.
But it's little things like that that'll catch up to you and get you throughout the race, and they add up. And
that's where I was, it's like, come on, dude, let's go a little bit quicker on Big Lake Trail at the very end. 30 seconds.
That's crazy. I think that's the end of this whole podcast and story right there is 34 seconds. 34,
awesome, guys.
34 seconds with a fifth place.
Well-deserved.
Well-deserved. Well, who would you like to thank? We're kind of getting to that witching hour of we should probably end this because we could go all day long.
Yeah.
But
Well, obviously, thank you guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for the sponsorship, and then it's obviously a cool opportunity to get out here and speak about the race and talk about our experiences and do's and don'ts for anybody that's wanting to get involved. And then obviously we have a whole list of sponsors, but
You better start listing them.
we can thank all those on social media. We don't have to take up your guys' time for them.
No, Three Bears, of course.
Yeah, Polaris, Three Bears. Everybody's pretty local and pretty loyal to us, which is obviously we're very thankful. So Three Bears, Polaris, Hatcher's Pass Polaris, Stud Boy, Lone Pine Fabrication, everybody that bought hats and hoodies, all that stuff went directly to us for personal stuff that we bought for the race. There's not a whole lot of money that kind of goes to this. A lot of it's product.
Right.
Everybody thinks it's like, oh, Aspire Realty, they gave you guys $10,000. It's like, no,
Well,
they
we did.
really don't.
We did.
It's we're not getting rich off this race. I guarantee. We're still losing money at the end of the day.
Right.
So, and then Tom's got a few.
Yeah, QAP and GPS Alaska and Sun Station Tanning Salon, a few other ones that helped us out, throughout the whole time. It was, like I said, the support from people reaching out to us was huge. People calling us, being like, hey, you're running the race, you need, sponsorship. And that was what was one wild thing to me is how many people cared and reached out. I had all kinds of people from out of state, racers that have raced in the past, reached out to me that I have hardly talked to in my life that are like, hey, you check in on this or, pay attention for this and, just positive support from
Right.
so many people. It was unreal,
Yeah.
and family and, our parents for, his dad helping get sleds across and back to the house and stuff like that. And, my dad flew up from Arizona to watch the finish and then flew back.
Nice.
That's cool.
He's smart,
Yeah,
was
he's
warm.
smart.
He's also a smart one where he did it one and done too.
Yeah.
But he's a different breed. He did it in 92.
2.
And it's,
Sleds were way different from 92.
yeah. They didn't train.
Right.
Oh,
They might have gone to Squinton and back. And that's where it's the
He
race is
opened
totally
his sled
evolved.
out of the crate 3 weeks before the race when he did it.
yeah.
So
It's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their goal is just to go there.
Right.
They went 1,000 miles.
they went Nome down to Big Lake.
Yeah. That's wild. So, well, we appreciate you guys coming and talking, and definitely if you decide to do it next year, hit us up.
Yeah. Thanks for
Thank
coming
you,
on,
guys.
guys. Appreciate
you.
it, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you.